we've now got a reasonable idea of all the basic and reference types that are available to us with Solidity. We're now going to go back to our lottery contract and use this newfound knowledge to start to implement some portions of the contract. In this video in particular, we're going to initialize our players variable, and then we'll start working on our enter function. So let's flip back over to our code editor inside of Remix, and we're going to start off by initializing the players variable. So underneath our existing declaration, we're going to initialize players as an array of addresses. Initializing an array in particular is always going to use the same syntax. We write out the type that is going to exist inside of the array, and then we write our square brackets like so. This creates a dynamic array that can only contain addresses. So we cannot put numbers in here, we cannot put in strings. The only thing that can go in is an address. Remember that if we put a number in here, that would create a fixed size array that can only hold up to 10 elements. But in this case, we want to allow an unlimited number of people to enter our lottery. So we're going to specifically make a dynamic array. Now after this, we're going to again place either our public or private keyword. In this case, I'm going to mark it as public again, because I'm really a-okay with other people trying to see what or who has entered into our lottery. And then finally, we're going to place the name of this variable, which I'm going to make players, like so. Cool. So now the next thing we're going to do is to start work on our enter function. Remember, if someone calls this, they are probably going to want to be entering into the lottery. So if someone calls the enter function, we're going to want to take that person's address and add it to the players array right here. Let's first start off by creating the function. So we'll write out function, the name of it. We're going to mark this as public because of course we want to allow anyone to call this function. And then we'll open up the function body. Now, one thing I want to mention about our contract in general, remember that in order to enter into the lottery, we have said that you have to send in some amount of ether. So here's that original diagram we looked at. We had said that for player 1 and player 2 to enter into the lottery, they have to send in some amount of ether right here. So in other words, whenever someone calls our function enter, we're going to expect them to send along some amount of ether. Whenever we create a function that expects to receive ether, we have to mark the function as payable. And you'll recall that we spoke about this payable term right here way long ago when we started talking about function types. So some of the different function types we have are public, private, view, constant, pure, and then the last one down here was payable. So we use that payable keyword whenever someone should be able to call that function and send along some amount of ether. So now we should be able to call the payable function and send along some amount of money. Then once they send in money, we'll want to make sure that we add in that person's address to the players array right here. So to add a new entry into the array, we want to push a new record in. So we're going to say players.push, just like we would with JavaScript. And then recall that to get access to the address of the person who is sending a transaction to this function right here, we can make use of the MSG, or the message global variable. And again, we can reference the .sender property on it. So we'll say message.sender, like so. Okay, so this looks good. Let's pause right here and then start to test out this contract in the next video.